Hi everyone. Right now, I'm recording this video because I want to talk about something different. Today's episode is not about professional wrestling. Today's episode is not for the weak. I'm going to be going into some dark places in my life. I'm going to talk about things that may not be suitable for people that will get offended. Because I'm going to talk about the truth. Truth through my eyes. Because that's the only way I can see it. And, you know, there's a lot of things here that I'm going to cover. Because this video is coming out here about a couple weeks before 9/11. And, you know, a lot of thoughts on that, which I'll get into. But I'm going to be covering things that some of you guys may not know. I'm getting ready to go back in the past. I'm getting ready to go back when I was in the Army. I made a video about 4 years ago that was, you know, about the differences between military life and civilian life. And I touched on some stuff there, but I felt like this video needs to kind of have some different, you know, view on it. This needs to have some more truth, some more in depth. So that's why I'm kind of doing this right now. Because first thing I want to talk about here is 9/11. That day. A lot of people, you know, suffered through that day. But I'm going to tell you my story. I was in Fort Hood, Texas at the time. I was in the Army. I just got out of the field. And for you guys at home, that's when we go training. To go over when we get deployed. I was in the field, and we just got out of there. And my platoon sergeant came up to me and said, "Hey, we're going to send you up to Darnell Army Community Hospital. And we're going to get you some extra training. You're going to be in the ER, so you're going to learn some new stuff." I was a young private back then. I was maybe, I don't know, let's see, close to 3 years in, pretty close to it. And I thought this was awesome, you know, because 3 years, all I did in the military, the first couple of years, was mainly take care of track vehicles. PMCS. Yeah, you know. Fort Hood, it has the biggest motor pool in history, 7.5 miles worth of motor pools, vehicles that you had to maintenance and take care of. It was kind of the joke at the time, but we would call ourselves mechanics because we were down in the motor pool more than actually doing medicine. I got to work sick call a little bit, learned some stuff there. But, you know, this was different. So it was 9/10, day before this, was my first day at the ER, working up there. And, you know, it was pretty much orientation. You know, hey, this is where all the stuff is, da 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 da, meet this person, meet that person. You get to go home early, which was cool. You know, always like going home early, you know. But then the next day, I came to work and I ended up, walking in, and we were getting ready to have a meeting, you know, I guess to discuss what the daily plans were and the weekly plans were or whatever. But then it happened. Somebody came on and said, "Hey, turn on the TV." And we did. And that's where we saw the story about the planes crashing into the towers. I can tell you that there was paranoia. People were scared. People were worried. Military personnel and civilian personnel alike, including me. There was someone that I knew that was around the Pentagon area when that got hit. And luckily, they didn't deal with the impact, thank God. But that was on my mind for a good bit of the day, just trying to call and find out. But there was another story behind 9/11, and this isn't publicized too much. It may have been local. Some people may know this. But that day, there was a guy that was a soldier that just couldn't take it anymore. He was dealing with extreme stress. And this guy lost it. And he ended up killing his newborn child with a frying pan because it was screaming too much. That child got brought to the hospital. I'm thanking God I didn't see it. But you could tell the somberness that was in there from the ER. And, it was horrible. 9/11 was very deadly. But the combination of them two really took a toll on me. I was outside chain smoking. It was not the most pleasant of the world to be around. I mean, so many things happened that day, just the chaos that ensued, and this is what started the war on terrorism. 9/11. To my knowledge, that guy, I believe, is still in jail. I don't know for sure. I have not looked it up. But, this brings me to my next thing here. We're getting ready to gear up. So they issue the anthrax vaccine, around this time. And no, we didn't have a choice on taking it. No. You took it or you got in trouble. I will tell you from the initial shot, this is my experience. This is not anybody else's experience, so it may be different, but I'm going to tell you my experience. The first shot I took, and it's right here, sub-Q. It put me almost into a heart attack. I had difficulty breathing. They took me to the TMC. They got whatever it was under control. And I was fine afterwards. But oh my God, just the things that was going on. I ended up taking 8 shots of this. 8 shots, because you got your initial 2-week, your month, your 6-month, your year, your 18-month, and then a booster every year. Until it was no longer allowed to be taken. And that happened because of a friend of mine, which I'll tell that story in a little bit, but let's go into what I'm really talking about here. Afghanistan. You know, I just got transferred to another unit. I was transferred to Fort Campbell. And I initially got there, and there was a man that I first met. He was the rear detachment NCO. He was the man in charge of the whole battalion while everybody was already over. And his name, I'm not saying his name, because that's just, I can't do it. Let's put it this way, that man took care of me before I went over. I was married at the time. He allowed me to, I just got married. He allowed me to go and take care of my wife. Allowed to take her back down to Texas, because that's where we met. We got married. I moved to Tennessee. I got to spend 10 days with her before getting deployed. He didn't have to do that. I'm glad he did. You know. And, you know, before even going over, I kept thinking in my head, that was probably the last time I'm going to get to see her. Because I didn't know, war's scary. They say war is hell. And I remember going over there, and it was a totally different world, because when you're in Afghanistan, you had all sorts of agencies there. And I got to tell you, the sandstorms were horrible. You know, there's dirt and everything, and wind blowing everywhere, wind blowing in your food, you know, and you're sitting there with all these agencies, and you're just over here kind of feeling like, all right, what the hell are we doing here? You know. I came over while my unit was on a mission. And I waited for him to come back. And then I finally got to meet him. And I met some of the best people in the world that I ever got to work with. Some of the most smartest medical people I ever got to work with. You know, and that's what I did. I was a 91 Bravo. And back in those days, that was a combat medic. You know, a medical specialist. That's the way it was presented to me in recruiter. You know, recruiter come out here saying. But there's some good things and bad things that happened. And what I want to talk about is a pill called the Lariam pill. The Lariam pill is one of the pills we would take once a week to fight malaria. You're thinking, oh, that's good. That's good. It had bad side effects. It had very bad side effects. It would give you vivid dreams. I can remember the first time I took it. The day before I took it, the first pill, I was talking to my first ex-wife, and we got into an argument, and we got into a fight. I remember being mad that night. I had to take my pill. And I had a very vivid dream. To the point where I killed her. it was one of the scariest dreams I've ever had in my life. I just tried to shake it off, say I had a bad dream, and move forward. Week later passes. I got into a huge argument with my squad leader at the time. That night, before I took the pill, and later that night, yeah, I had that dream again, except I killed him. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to. It scared the hell out of me. So I had to tell him. I told him while we were doing laundry. And it freaked him out. Just like it freaked me out, and even to this day. You know. That drug, I took a few times. And then I stopped. Because it was terrifying. I didn't know what that drug would do beyond what it did. And, you know, there was a story that came out after we got back from Afghanistan about 4 soldiers. And this is where I wonder, this is a lot of gray area that I still don't know if it's determined. But 4 soldiers came home and killed their wives, literally. And they blamed it on the drug. The military wasn't buying it. So they sent them to jail. And my next deployment, we went to Iraq. We weren't taking Larium. We were taking doxycycline. Doxycycline, its biggest component, what it does is treat pimples. But they said this would treat malaria as well. That is how bad that drug did its effects, and it affected the military as a whole. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little emotional. This is not easy to talk about, but I feel like I have to do this because I want to bring awareness to this. You know, people think that, oh, you can just go in the military and it's an easy cakewalk and you're going to be fine. It's not always the case. You know. So, moving along here. Before you went to Iraq, they had another vaccine. This vaccine was from way back in the days. They used to give it back in the days during the Eisenhower administration. And they did occasionally after that. But smallpox, and for people that don't know, smallpox is different from every other vaccine that I have seen. Usually you get a needle, you get a jab out of here, in the butt, somewhere. Smallpox vaccine, what they do is they take the solution that is mixed up with it. They take a needle, it's about this long, just a little bobby pin needle, and they dip it in there, and then they stick you in the arm. And anybody who's had it can tell you, it feels like a knife going in your body. It is very painful. It is difficult. They give you 3 shots of that. And they wait, you know, a little bit to see if it takes. You'll get a little scar, a little blistering. If it does, you don't need one after that. If it doesn't, like me, they do that same thing again where they stick it in there and they do it 15 times in your arm. 15 times. So total 18 times I got in there. I got a scar then. I don't have much of a scar now. I think I can pinpoint it if I really, really look for it. But, you know, I had that vaccine, among others, yellow fever, typhoid, oral polio, many other vaccines. There were some people who at the point didn't get to take it because, you know, they had reactions that were not allowed. If you had allergic to eggs, you couldn't take it. But eventually, they took it. They had to take it. They took it overseas, and then they mandated, said, you got to take it. I want to talk about something good, though. This isn't all bad, okay? There's some good stories. I want to thank my mom. My mom's always been my biggest supporter. From the times, even in basic training, where, because, you know, I was an avid wrestling fan there. She would literally write me letters in detail about what happened on pay-per-views and shows. And I just never forget that. You know, she did things like when we were deployed, you know, all three of my deployments, she would send videos of pay-per-views. I mean, it would get there 3 weeks later or so. But you know what? I enjoyed watching every one of them. Back on VCR, you know. And, you know, she would do things like that. She always sent care packages, you know, always writing letters. I was thankful for it. You know, because when you get deployed, you may not hear from family and friends for months. You know, because there's times when you go over and you at best might have a 5-minute phone call that you're allowed on one cellular phone for the entire unit. Just say, hey, I'm live, I'm here, I gotta go. Pretty much. You didn't get much time more than that. You couldn't say much more than that. You know, but eventually there was times where you could. You know, so many great things that happened. But then there was a lot of things that didn't. You know, so I just want to say thank you, Mom. And thank you to all the people that were at that time were supporting me through the war. You know, I mean, it was messy. It was hell. Through Iraq, I went through a divorce. So I had the military life. I had the divorce life. I had an ex-wife that was calling IG consistently, trying to get me in trouble because she felt like that she was owed. And I didn't know her anything. We separated. My lawyer was handling it. And he got me divorced before I got home. But I had all that crisis go down. I had a breakdown. A real bad one between that. Between, you know, going through the day-to-day of everything with the attacks and things like that. You would see some of the dumbest things in the world happen over there. And then on top of it, my grandmother passed away. And I miss her to this day. she'd always be wild. Like I can remember going over to Grandma's house, and I'm like, "Hey, Grandma," and she'd be like, "Hi, Jerry, you want something to eat?" And I'm like, "No, Grandma, I just ate." And she'd be like, "Come on, Jerry, I got some lasagna." I don't like that name very much, Jerry. She was the only one that really called me it, and that's why I don't like it, because I don't want anybody else really to call me that. But she always, I spent a lot of my childhood around my grandmother. When I wasn't around my folks, of course, my parents. But she ended up passing away, and I was told I couldn't go home to see her because she wasn't immediate family. Believe me, it hurt. I understood, but it hurt. It put me into a big meltdown. And it sent me to a mental health evaluation while I was over there. I got to go to see an actual psychiatrist over there. The reason I bring this up, because I'll never forget these words that were said to me. I'll never forget these words. What you can fix, change. And what you can't, don't worry about. Those words I still, hold to me to this day. It's very powerful to me. And it's something I live by. Because if I can't fix it, there's nothing I can do about it. You got to move on. But if there's something I can, I do my best to fix it, to change it. That's the man I am. That's who I become. And I got through that. The heart. The heart. That's always something I've had. I said in my other video, it's always something I had since the beginning of time. The drive, the passion. I'm sorry, I'm delaying a little bit because I'm getting ready to talk about another story. And like I said, this is not for the weak at heart. December 2003. I'm going to talk about this story in a minute. But that man that first took care of me at Fort Campbell ended up passing away, I believe, the day after my birthday, July 19th. Or 20th, one of the two, I'm trying to remember. It's been a little bit, but I'll never forget it. Because we were attacked, and he ended up passing away, getting killed in action. The problem was, in the military, they do a stop loss. Stop loss is, even if you're getting out and you're on ETS leave, meaning you're making your way out of the military, they can stop loss you. Stop loss is where they go, oh, this is your contract? Oh, you've got 11 days left? Oh, guess what? We're extending it 6 months, a year, 18 months, however long they felt. And these guys got extended. And there was a lot of guys that did that. And it was very sad. I was like, man, they were almost out. I was a year and a half away from my exit point at this time. And that happened. And the guy I'm talking about, he ended up dying before he got out, because he could have gotten out. And they were getting ready to send everybody home, because at that point things were under control. They wanted to let those guys go home because they earned it. and he ended up not making it. I'll never forget that man. You know, he was a good soldier. He was a good person and a good friend. But, you know, you just never know when your time is going to end. When they punch your ticket, it's it. But now I'm going to talk about December 2003. This day haunts me consistently in dreams, in thoughts. People will ask why I can talk about this. And I've been told it's because I can cope with it. It's because if I talk about it, it helps me cope. It helps me, you know, get through it. So, December 9th, that's the date. I went down to our headquarters where the PX was. That's a shop, by the way, for civilians. I got a ride with our lieutenant, and I managed to go over there and get myself something because, you know, we're only allowed to have a little bit of money at a time. We're only allowed to withdraw $100 every month rather. But believe me, that $100 was stretched. You know, we could write checks, thank God for the PX, but you know, you had little shops there in Iraq and Afghanistan, people that would sell you cigarettes, they would sell you food. Sometimes, you know, I even got a PS2 over there from Germany. Not Germany, I'm sorry, European style PS2. You know, and that was cool because I had a little small TV and I was able to play, you know, SmackDown 2 when it came out and all that. Yeah, it's amazing what you found over there. But yeah, so I ended up finding something. I found a little portable DVD player. And there wasn't a lot of DVDs, you know, to choose from, but I found one. I found Married with Children Season 1. Married with Children Season 1. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'll be on Radio Watch tonight. I was working in the aid station, around the docks and the PAs. You know, I'll do this, you know, stay awake and listen for radio calls and things like that. So I watched my episodes. And nothing, you know, nothing happened at that point. 2-hour shift. My relief came in. I went to bed. And from that point on, I had the most vivid dream of my life. I dreamed we were in a firefight. And we were fighting down in the prison. There was prison about a few miles from where we were stationed at. And big firefight, and I dreamt that an RPG came about right here. If you see the distance. Yeah. I woke up screaming. But I'm going to get into a little backstory on this. Because there was a man in charge that thought it was a dumb idea for us to have a concrete wall 10 feet around where we were staying at. He looked at us like, you don't need this. There's no point in this. This is not going to help you. There was 2 towers as well, and there was a gate in between to protect us from people coming in and trying to take over. Well, that night, what happened was this guy drove through the gates and crashed into the wall. And before he passed away and got killed, he pressed that button because he got shot up. He pressed that button. 1.5 miles worth of damage radius. When I woke up screaming from that dream, that's exactly when it hit. I felt the... And I was laying down in bed, and over here was a window. And where we were staying at, they didn't have spider-proof glass. This is regular glass. This blast hit, and this glass shattered. I was sleeping with my whoopee. Yeah, Poncho. That's your best friend in life when you're in the Army. Your Poncho, your whoopee. I covered up with that. And I got 3 cuts right here from glass. All my knuckles. I didn't claim a Purple Heart because the Purple Heart generally says life, limb, or eyesight. You know, and that's on discretion. But for me, I couldn't claim it. I could have gotten free license plates the rest of my life. But I didn't claim it. I didn't want to. But this blast hit, and luckily at the time I was sleeping in a brown top, brown t-shirt, and BDU bottoms. And the next thing I heard was, "Medic!" Luckily for us, 3 days prior, we had packed our aid bags. We had all sat down in the aid station, packed our individualized aid bags because the whole aid station was destroyed. Bomb blast took all the medical chests, knocked them to the ground, knocked litters over. You know, it made some things usable, some things not usable. A lot of glass everywhere. You know, some of the building, because they didn't use wood for houses. They used concrete. Wood is very expensive over there. I came down, and I seen a man. This is graphic here, so you might want to like skip over this. I seen a man who had both his eyes blown out from the blast. He was out there early. He was smoking a cig before formation. He got nailed. Had another one that had the left eye blown. Had another one that had a piece of the bomb lodged in the cheek. Another one had their lip split from the bomb. And many other injuries that came out. Around 70 some casualties came out of this. Nobody passed away, thank you God. Nobody was KIA, thank God. But there was a lot of people that were scarred, including myself. I remember talking to an old sergeant about this, and he said, you hadn't stopped smoking since that happened. I was chain smoking. I probably smoked about a pack, I'd say probably in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. I was shook. It was bad. I'm just thanking God that everybody lived. You know. That was the most dangerous part of it was, you know, and the most exhilarating because it was an adrenaline rush. You never knew if that was going to be your last day on the world, you know. Yeah, you didn't know. That's what was exciting about life in the military was it could have been your last. It's a scary thing too. Don't worry. I'm thankful I made it. You know. But now I want to talk about after that. You know, we did a lot of good over there. I'm going to talk about a little bit before this too, because the ride up, and you want to talk about mind control, mind power. Saddam Hussein controlled those people. It got to the point where every street corner, every house, every place that you could was either a portrait, a picture, a statue of Saddam Hussein. And as some of you remember back in the days when the local Iraqis, they ended up tearing down the Saddam Hussein statue. At that point, I was I think about 150 yards away from it. It wasn't very far. I could see it in the distance. In Baghdad, you know, it was such a sight to see, because people ask me, you know, were people dangerous over there? And I would tell you, you know, about 95% of the people were good. 95%. It's those 5% that ruin it for everybody else. It's a lot like America. 95% of the people are good, but it's that 5% that ruin it. You know, and it's hard to take care of that 5%, ain't it? But yeah. So getting out, you know, I finished up my tours. I got out of the military, and I went to the civilian world. I didn't have a lot of clue on what I was going to do. My thought process was, you know, I'm going to go work. I'm going to take a job. I'm going to work in medicine. And I did, you know. And I went through several jobs because it was totally different from the military. Civilian life, you can quit a job if you want to. Military life, you can't. You can get kicked out, but you can't quit. You know, it was troublesome times getting out of the military. It was very scary. You know, I got to travel the world before, when I was in, and I got to travel the world afterwards. I lived a lot of places. I did a lot of things. You know, it let me continue, you know, on my wrestling career that I enjoyed very much. But I'll tell you, in the civilian world, it's just rough. It's not fun. You go ask any vet, a lot of them will tell you in some days they wish they were back, and other days they don't. You know, because they took care of you. You know, they did their best. They do it now a little bit. The VA, you know, that's the real war from home. That's not the most pleasant place in the world. Some people will tell you that. Some people will tell you it's you know, a good experience. And I've had both. So what I'm getting ready to tell you is some stories here on that. I went down one time to a VA. I'm not going to say where. But I went down one time and I had a tooth problem. Really bad. And when you're VA, you generally don't worry about medical insurance because that's what you got. You know, when you're military, you're a veteran. And that's the same thing with me. That's why I don't go to civilian hospitals, because they don't care about that. Most of them. Very few will, but most of them don't. But I came in there with some tooth pain. And there was this guy that was really going through some stuff. And he wanted to be seen. And I got to see this firsthand. This guy got ushered out of the VA because they didn't want to treat him. They didn't care. It was horrible. I will say this. The VA has gotten better since then. It still needs work, just like every other system in the world. It's not perfect. But I had seen things like that. There was a story, I think I talked about it on a previous episode a couple years back, about a guy who went into a VA and started shooting up the place because he wasn't getting treatment. It was horrible. You know, they always say, take care of your vets. And people want to honor, the fallen veterans, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Armed Forces Day, 9/11, I try to do everything I can to make sure that I help out fellow vets. When you're not in a horrible situation right now, you try to do that because somebody needs to look out for them, and they deserve it. And that's what I tell other people. You got to help people, and they really do deserve the help. I'm glad to see the VA has gotten better. I went to one recently, and they really took care of me. I felt like, they actually cared, which was amazing. You don't get that very often. Because there's some of these guys that just punch the clock and don't care and move on, and there's other ones that actually do. So if you're not happy with your VA, you need to say something. I'm sure there are people that are not. You need to call whoever you need to call. I think somebody will probably write it in the comments if they know the number. If you do, please. And, VA in general, hopefully they get better. That's really what I hope. So I want to talk about a little bit more things here. I'm sorry, this is a long video. I felt like I needed to get this off my chest, and I felt like I wanted to bring some awareness because people think it's easy. The effects on what happens after the wars, after your service, is devastating. The PTSD that comes from that, the bad memories, the bad dreams, loud noises, the anti-socialism, because a lot of times you don't want to be around people. And it's tough to be around people, and you kind of excuse yourself and walk away. I'm glad my friends understand this. It's not easy. Relationships, trying to deal with this is very hard. It's a hard thing for anybody to accept when you've got conditions with you. And this is one of them. I've had women leave me because of things like this. Because they couldn't deal with it. And I can't blame them. I understand. It's not easy to deal with these things. Is it heartbreaking? Yeah. Does it make you trust a lot of people? No. It's just a lot of thoughts here. I'm sorry, I'm really just getting a little emotional here. Because life's not always fun. It's very sad to see, the effects of this. The effects of what war does to you. There's other stories I could go into, but I'm not going to go into it this time. There's some things I wanted to say. But there is one thing I really do want to talk about, and this is why this video is made. Very recently, we pulled out of Afghanistan. And yeah, we knew we had to at some point. We had to. The way we did it was horrible. Because now terrorists are taking over. And it's horrible. It's bad to see that they took over. And the chaos ensues. And the poor mismanagement of this is ridiculous. 20 years ago, this is what we fought for. We went over there because it was our job, because it was our duty to protect the freedom of the United States and to help liberate people, to help people. And this is what happens. This is the worst thing I've ever seen when it comes to it. And you know, a lot of people will tell me this is a lot like Vietnam when they pulled out. We're not at that level. Vietnam veterans, they got spit on. They got called baby killer. They had so many things said and done to them just because they served, because they got drafted. We didn't have it to that point, but there is similarities between the two. And it's just sad. It's very sad to see how this world is turning. You know, and people want to talk to me about vaccines. And I've already talked about a few that I've taken. And I've made this choice. You know, I found out today that it got approved through the FDA. I still don't want to take it. Why? Because I was forced to take many of them from the government. And they had side effects with them too. And it's my choice. And that's what I choose. If you want to take it, that's you. I have a problem with it. That's you, you know. If you don't want to take it, that's fine. That's you. I don't have a problem with it. But it's your choice to make, just like it's mine. You know, I know this is a long video. I had to get this out here. I felt like this needed to be said. You never know, there might be another one coming out. But I think I got everything I wanted to say, for at least now, off my chest. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I really do. And if you've lasted this long, thank you. You know, it means a lot. If you can, give me a like this video. If you like what I said, if you felt what I said, if you understood what I said, give me a like. Give me a share. Share this on your page. You know, I love talking about wrestling. Wrestling is a great thing. It's what we've lived around. But I've lived around here for a long time. You know, I'm thankful for my co-host. Without him, you know, there's a lot of things I could be doing right now, and I'm glad I'm not. You know, he don't even know I'm making this video, but he will when he sees it. But, you know, a good friend, a man I've known since I started in the wrestling business. But thank you all for watching this. You know, thank you to the veterans, the ones that are currently serving, the ones that want to serve, and the ones who are watching this to get knowledge. I hope I presented enough of that to you. There'll be more videos. Don't worry. We'll have our wrestling on there, but this one I had to make. I just want to thank you all for tuning in, and Godspeed, God bless, and I hope that things turn around here in the world here sooner than later. Thank you.